So Mongoose offers us developers very powerful ways of validating data that's coming into our model. And so in this video, we're going to learn all about data validation with Mongoose. Now, what exactly does validation actually mean? Well, validation is basically checking if the entered values are in the right format for each field in our document schema, and also that values have actually been entered for all of the required fields. Now, on the other hand, we also have sanitization, which is to ensure that the inputted data is basically clean, so that there is no malicious code being injected into our database or into the application itself. So in that step, we remove unwanted characters or even code from the input data. Alright? And this is actually a crucial step, like a golden standard in backend development, to never ever accept input data coming from a user as it is. So we always need to sanitize that incoming data. But anyway, I will leave data sanitization for the security section of the course, so that in this lecture, we can focus entirely on data validation. And we are doing this data validation right here on the model. And that again is because of the fat model and thin controller philosophy, which makes the model the perfect place to perform validation, right? And in fact, Mongoose already comes with a bunch of validation tools out of the box. And so let's now actually do some data validation here. And actually we already did. So when we used this require here, that is actually already a built-in data validator, alright? So you see that we use a validator like required right here in the schema type options. And required is actually available for all the data types. So not just strings, but really everything, numbers, booleans, dates, or really whatever type you're using. Then we also have unique here, but please note that this is actually technically not a validator. It will still produce an error when we have a duplicate name, but again, this is not really a validator, alright? But required is a validator, and so I'm going to show you now another one, which is specifically just for strings, which is called max length and also min length. So we have max length, and as the name says, we use this to specify the maximum length that a string can have. And if it's longer than that, well, then it's going to produce an error. Alright? So let's do that just like we did before with required, where we specify an array and then set the value. So let's say we want 40 as the maximum string length, and then we add the error after that. So basically the error message that we get. So a tour name must have less or equal than 40 characters. Okay, so that is max length, and then we also have min length. Alright, and so let's set that one to 10. So a tour name must have more or equal than 10 characters. Okay, and so just like this, we have these two validators that are actually only available on strings. Okay, and so let's now actually go ahead and try that. So I'm going to create a new tour here. And this is not the secret tour, but then here the rest actually does not matter. I will just call this one test tour, and let's see how many characters we have. So 4 plus 1 plus 4, so we only have 9 characters. And so we should now expect to actually get an error. So let's try that out. And indeed, a tour name must have more or equal than 10 characters. Great. But now what about updating tours? So let's get one of these here. So we have this test tour 2 here. So let's try to update this one. So we go to our update tour route. And then let's here change the name to test, send a request, and we get the same error. Now this only works because of a setting that we set way back when we implemented this updating handler. So let me quickly show that to you. In the tour controller, delete and update. And so it's because of this option here, run validators set to true, that the validators are run again. If I set it now to false, then Mongoose should happily accept this name, and indeed it does. All right. So let's set it back to something longer. It doesn't matter. Okay. And if I set it back to true, then it should not accept it. And indeed, we get our error back. All right. So just wanted to quickly show you the effect of that setting. All right. And so, yeah, these are now working. Let's try a couple of more validators here. For example, now on numbers. So let's go here to the ratings average, and we note that a rating must always be between 1 and 0. And we know that a rating must always be between 1 and 5. Okay? And so very similar to the min and max length, on numbers we simply have min and max. So the minimum that we want is 1. And then again our error message. So rating must be above 1.0, let's say. And then the max is 5. Must be below 5.0. Okay, and let's quickly test this one as well. So creating a new tour. Let's call it the test tour amazing, because it has an average rating of 6. Okay, so let's see what happens then. And indeed, the rating must be below 5. Okay, and so that again is not going to work. And of course, it cannot be 0 either. So it must be above 1. Then of course, with 4, it is going to work. And indeed, here is our tour. Next up, I want to restrict this difficulty value here to only 3 difficulties. So easy, medium, and difficult. And if the user puts in something else, then it's not going to work. So let's try that out. So the validator that we use for that is called enum. Okay, and so here we can pass in an array of the values basically that are allowed. So we have easy, we have medium, and we have difficult. All right. Now we also want to specify our error message here, but right now that's not really possible, right? I mean, if we added another argument here, then that would not be for the error message. It would of course be for yet another possible value. Okay, and so the solution that we need to do here is to create yet another object here, and then actually specify that these here are the values, and then our message. All right, and so this is actually how it really works. This notation here is really just a shorthand for this complete object here. All right. So difficulty is either easy, medium, or difficult. Okay, and so that is a very nice, very handy validator that is automatically available on all strings. Okay, so don't try to use this one here on numbers, for example. This is only for strings. And by the way, this min and max here is actually not only for numbers, but it's also going to work with dates. All right. Anyway, let's now finally test this out as well. So we need to change the name. And then here, let's put something else. All right. And so indeed, we get our error. If we now put easy, then it works. Okay. And that's actually all I wanted to show you here in this lecture. But there are actually a bunch of other validators. For example, on strings, you have a match validator in order to check if the input matches a given regular expression. But I believe that these ones that I just showed you here are the most important built-in validators. And for a complete list of all of them, of course, you can always check out the documentation. Now we can also specify our own validators, And so that is exactly what we will do right in the next video.